everyone, and welcome again to Erie County Public Library's Poetry Live event. Once again, every Thursday, we kind of get together, try to get local poets from the community or nearby to share their poetry, in much the same way you might share your poetry at an open mic night. Everybody's welcome if you would like to come on down. We're doing all the social distancing guidelines, all the masks, so you can absolutely be safe here and hopefully enjoy some great live poetry. Just a couple of reminders before we get started. We are being filmed right now. It's going to be live streamed, and it's going to be put up on both Facebook and YouTube. So just to let every poet know that if they are not comfortable with that, if you get a hold of us in advance, we might be able to do something. But if you're just here, just keep that in mind. It will be posted online. Otherwise, I'm happy to see all you here today, and I'm happy to hear some more fantastic quality of poetry. My name is Patrick Nuttall, and welcome to the show. And once I'm done, any poet can kind of stand up. We have everybody here, but anybody in the audience who wants to read can also come up at any time, after somebody's reading, of course, and share your work. So don't feel too intimidated. You can always feel free to come up between acts if you want to kind of share. So I'm going to step back. We'll have some other poets step up. You'll introduce yourself, and when you're done, we're going to be reading 2 poems, 3 if they're all short, and we're just going to keep on keeping on. Thank you. I'll spark this off.
All right. There we go.
Let's get started. I'm back. As I said, my name is Patrick Nuttall, and today I'm going to read 2 poems, somewhat short, but I just want to do 2 today. Okay. Feed your stomach and fill your body with this scroll. A child, I ate the fringe on notebooks until my tongue turned blue with ink, and the teacher, their big voice, called to the class, "Get up and go out," and I did, as if that would be the end of it. Pages, then entire books, pulp between teeth, fiber feel on canines and incisors. Once, after school, I returned home and found Tennyson torn to shreds, the dog crouched in the corner. I cried and threw the spine, what little meat left, against the wall. The dog growled and slunk into the kitchen. All I had was envy and scraps left over to eat. Thank you. Okay, this next poem is called Another Ounce of Grace. It's a poem in 2 parts, but don't worry, both the parts are pretty small. Okay, here we go. Another ounce of grace. The edge of a bat's wing, the honey over your thumb. Escape that moment before sleep. The voice of the woman you love from the living room. It's hollow as it travels the hallway and dies. After midnight, when the sky opens, find Pleiades. Their hands point everywhere. Follow them. Turn back only after your skin has raised and the spark of your breath dissipates into the trees. Thank you.
Oh, nobody else? I'll jump up there. I'm going to take my mask off because when my glasses are on, they fog up with this mask. So remember, if you're watching at home, stay 6 feet away from your TV screen. All righty. I'm Dan Mitchell, better known as Art Vanguard, and this is the political poetry portion of the program. The reason it is because I'm up here reading my political poetry. So tonight, I'm continuing with the theme, work, write a poem about work. I'm on my 8th and 9th, 6th, 7th and 8th job out of the 28 jobs I had in my lifetime. Tonight I'm talking to you about the jobs I had when I was going to college. Every summer I'd get a job at St. Luke's Hospital. And eventually I began to, that became the first organizing drive in my long career. But tonight is about the summer I worked as an X-ray orderly. This was only a summer job. By September, I'd be back at school. I'd ask the nurses, "Is the patient ready?" And they'd smile and act real cool. Then they'd scurry around as if I were a doctor, trying to assist me to get the patient into the wheelchair or onto the gurney. I knew my way through the elevators and corridors of this maze. Finding every room and patient was a trail I quickly blazed. Taking very gentle care of my wounded cargo, I would squeeze past dietitians with food carts and nurses with pill dispensaries. I didn't get to take the X-ray, but if it was slow, I could watch. I discovered that it was a lot like the black and white film batch. Different camera, but the same procedure in chemistry. I didn't mind the gamma rays, but the subject stifled my creativity. Lunchtime in the cafeteria was edible and cheap, and this young man of 22 was always asked to have a seat by young nurses and orderlies and housekeepers I'd meet as an X-ray orderly throughout the summer's days and months and weeks. X-ray orderly, thank you. Second poem is the second job I had there during my sophomore year at college, or summer, and it was called the groundskeeper's job. Every day there's something to be done on the grounds. Trim the bushes, sweep the sidewalks, and pull the weeds that we found. To the greenhouse we go to get chrysanthemums to plant along the entrances to the emergency room. Putting chips around the trees on the hospital's campus and killing weeds in the cracks in the parking lots, cutting lawn and weed whacking all afternoon long. It's hardly the life for such a vibrant young tot. I needed people to talk and to cajole with. I needed young girls to sit with at lunch, not a bunch of old drunken geezers, the ones I called the liquid lunch bunch. I was still going to college back then. I was still reading Marx and Engels. I wasn't quite ready to organize yet. I had to learn more about this class struggle. Thank you, the groundskeeper. That ends the political poetry portion of the program unless somebody else has a political poetry poem. Oh, great.
What an intro. Hi, I'm Chuck Joy, and I have three poems tonight. They're all short enough. I'm just not sure they're poems, but the first one I would call a contribution to the political portion of the
Political poetry portion of the program.
Thank you, Danny. So this is called Let's Put It Out There. Unity, together, everybody pulling in the same direction. We're a large group defined by suffrage, the ability to vote, facing the same choice from New Jersey to Honolulu, electing a government to serve us, choosing unity, coming together. Nurture growth, shelter the infirm, human beings all, every age, sex, color, talent, method of praise, and increasingly additional species. Channeling the energy to improve our community, address inequities, protect our environment, seek balance and harmony, be intelligent, regulate our collective behavior. Nobody's perfect, but lead with character. I move we make it unanimous. Thank you. This next poem is more poetry you watch. It's called Cope. This poem is absolutely true. A small green sign poked to a stick reads in slender white letters, Cope, Cope, Colorado, Eastern Colorado, maybe Kansas. Cope, a couple structures and a short line of trees. Striking name, vanishingly small. Might be gone by the time any of us get back to Cope. The highway bends right there, so a driver has to be careful, pulling over on the outside of the curve, climbing out. Lanky feller in jeans and a leather vest. He looked east. The gray two-lane bisecting the brown plain all the long way to a flat horizon. Big sky perfectly clear, turquoise blue. He looked west. Where are the structures and the trees? Cope, a place so small you can easily see past it. A white semi approaching the curve from the west. The lanky guy, he moved like Mick Jagger, pulls a cell phone from a shirt pocket under the vest, sprints across the highway, way ahead of the semi, wades into a weedy field, takes a picture of the sign, the green and white sign, Cope. The guy, he climbs back into the driver's seat, pulls the door shut, says, "That's the most running I've done in years." Thank you. That was Cope. A poem about a sign. And then I want to conclude with something from Mr. Billy Collins. This is from a really nice collection of Billy Collins poems called Taking Off Emily Dickinson's Clothes. It's a short poem, 8 lines. Putting down the cat. The assistant holds her on the table, the fur hanging limp from her tiny skeleton. And the veterinarian raises the needle of fluid, which will put the line through her 9th life. Painless, he reassures me, like counting backward from 100. But I want to tell him that our poor cat cannot count at all, much less to 100, much less backwards. Thank you. Billy Collins.
Hello, my name is Mabel Howard. Actually going to talk a little bit about my work at Bethany Outreach Center. All 3 of my poems were inspired by a location from the workplace. So they say to love what you do and do what you love. I happen to do both of those. So this is about the tree. The tree, part 1. I hope that you would join me in standing. I never get a chance to take a break. The tree, part 2. I provide shade, I provide a breeze. All of these things I do for free. Me. And the tree, part 3. So this is from the perspective of the tree standing. When we go to work, we typically spend maybe 6 to 8 hours a day, but the tree's there 24 hours a day. So I wanted to write something inspired by the tree, if the tree could talk. What stories would this tree tell if it could see? Today it would be about volunteers distributing groceries to the neighbors of Erie's east side, families that are in great need. There are many people that desire the hope that Bethany seems to bring. Others join in the efforts by mailing a financial seed, often delivered by the box truck with the red, white, and blue stripes, with the intent of helping to lighten the load so that a family would sleep better at night. Thank you.
Cool. I misjudged the last time, and you probably can't see, but I stood up. But, all right, hi, I'm Todd. Back again for a weekly dose of Doris. And then I have a really short poem to read after that as well. If I remember correctly, we're on part 7 out of 10. So I'll be reading Doris part 7, Doris part 8, and then a short poem. So this is Doris part 7. Time, reason, and rhyme. When I climb, I rewind until the last sign I cried when I lied on the percussive side. Don't chide me, Doris. I won't apologize. I won't mythologize, but what you've tried can't hide the lie in your eyes. The lion subsides with the gazelle, raising hell, crapsing and traipsing to each new blue bell. I'll sing along with the shellfish. My song don't feel selfish when I'm singing it by myself. My thoughts, a shelf for you to organize and peruse. A stop on the cruise won't return your land legs to you, my love. A Doris down, a Doris above. And into it you'll grow like a glove and rub till the scrub don't need scrubbed. All right. Thank you. Doris part 8, much like part 5, I believe, is a melody. Once again, once I print it, I'll include the sheet music for it, but I'm just going to read it for you today. So this is Doris part 8. And a Mary and a mercy, and a my God, he won't hurt me. And a devil and a demon, and a debonair with room to spare, he stares within the crystal. He cares a loaded pistol. And a bastard and a songbird, and a tune assume you've not heard, and a Karen and a seagull, and a promise that these people won't be scared of what you've skimped on. I'm prepared to storm the mansions. And if they don't have it, and I can't grab it, who's got a star that I can wish on? All right, thank you. And yeah, thank you. I'll actually finishing it up next week with 9 and 10. And I'll leave you with a really short one that I wrote in my most recent book called The Mask, an Honest Opera. This poem does not have a title. And I marked the wrong page. Luckily, I memorized it. So it's untitled. It's a short 4-line poem, and we're gonna live and never die. The stars above just passing by, they wave us off because they don't see that we will live eternally. Thank you.
Evening, folks. Ooh, hi guys, my name is Matt Borzon. Y'all remember a story when we were little kids about a farmer that got up every day and picked up a calf and carried it around the house? And he does it every day so as the calf grows up into a cow. He keeps picking up the ideas that if he does it every day, no matter how big the cow gets, he can always carry it around and it just makes him stronger. Tell you that story so I can tell you this story. 10 years ago this week, I would have landed in Afghanistan for a year that pretty profoundly changed my life. And during this time when we're sort of not talking to each other, I'm living inside my head a little too much, so I'm sort of trying to carry a calf around every day, dealing with my PTSD. So I'm gonna read you 3 sort of daily meditation things that I am just sort of doing. They're just called PTSD number whatever. This one is number 2. PTSD 2. PTSD is that tiny shovel they issued us before Afghanistan. It's too small and flimsy to dig a hole deep enough. For all the smells, all the tastes, all the memories, and all the blood you didn't think you would bring home after the war. So this one is number 3. PTSD is an empty gun you carry into battle, trying to remember if you lost the bullets. Were they spilled across the floor like pills from a bottle? Or did you unload them yourself on the day you decided the only death you could have on your conscience was your own? Thank you. And I'll read one more that I actually haven't put out anywhere yet. This is a fairly new one. I'm up to like 15 or 20. I'm not sure how many of these will go, I guess, until I have nothing to say. So this is number 16. PTSD is the look in my pharmacist's eyes when I say I don't want my anxiety medication. It's the frustration in my wife's voice when she asks how one man can sweat through these sheets so hard. It's the note my mother sent asking me when I was going to start to act like my old self again. And it's a slight taste of vomit I get in my throat when somebody thanks me for my service. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Luke Kuzmish. I have a new book out. It's called My Name Does Not Belong to Me, and I'm going to read a few pieces from it. This one's called Identity. I didn't understand ancestry when I was in my early 20s reading poetry to strangers in a since-dead bookstore that kept looking for its footing in different parts of town. Why would anyone call themselves Irish here when they had been American and only American their whole lives? Was it some unnecessary search for an easy-to-adopt identity when all you may feel like is the city's debris collected on 4-lane streets and blown accordingly into the lake along with the belly-up fish shy of regulation and the ducks, the beggars of the bay? Then I read Philip Levine, and I wanted so badly to say, I am Harry's grandson, he who sweat in the foundry at Zern's and ate in the delis on Friday. Fried perch bookended by Lucky Strikes and milky sweet coffee, his spoon chiming a joyous melody, whistling with his paycheck bound for a bucket with a hole in it. I wanted to know the Vietnam draft fears I wanted to know the Vietnam draft fear 1970s of my father, who spent high school as a sweat hog and kissed the dirt when the draft ended, just before he had to learn what work is. Building meters swallowed up by white brick and greasy black fire escapes, waiting for the next layoff, the next foreign owner, the next union president who would stand in front of the cameras, the next bone thrown to the dogs, learning the lesson that work is what war is. A sacrifice, a malignant tumor that teaches us it's easier to pay unto Caesar what is his than to be the blind beggar waiting for his Messiah. Thank you. This one's called April 4th, 2019, for lack of a better title. I appreciate deconstructionists who leave the nihilism as an exercise for the reader, just like proofs in those overpriced college math books that I stopped buying because I never really used them, and more often than not, you couldn't sell them back, and if you could, it was $10 on a $200 book. But at the end of the semester and a week before payday, that seemed like a good deal. The economics of poverty is that 2 in the bush is the same as a diet of the Sermon on the Mount. You have to buy now if you want to live till tomorrow, and promises and guarantees are trash, headed to the compactor. At best, you'll see their smoke burning off in the morning light and say, I knew I was right to have my doubts. Being poor is as embarrassing as it is inconvenient, and sometimes I too hate the woman in front of me with her access card, but not because I think she's lazy or because her feeding her children inconveniences me, but because I am hungry for more than a Little Debbie snack cake, but that's all I can afford. And I'm not any good at shoplifting, and I don't want to have to work for doing something I hate for 60 hours a week. Wasn't that what our grandfathers did? Why are we working so hard? I feel buried before direct deposit hits, and I feel a different kind of buried when it does. And I realize I'm not getting ahead, and I realize that I'm not interested in participating in a workers' revolution, and I can't sing or play ball, and I I don't think I want to move away from where I live for job prospects because I love my parents and familiarity. And if it's this hard here, what would make me think it would be any easier in a city full of strangers and higher rent? I'm no gambler, and being optimistic feels like betting against the house. Thank you.
Good evening, people. I just made it back from Texas. Parked the truck and drove here. I was just hoping I could make it the whole day. See, plenty of good poets. My name is Richie C. This is about growing up and my first experience, outside of really home. It was at the public dock. Many of you will probably remember before, back in the day when it was just known as the public dock, what went on. This is a story as part of my growing up during the 60s and early 70s. A gathering at the public dock, a trading post for revolting youth. Police promptly empty at 11 o'clock. A go-round up and down state. Muscle cars along the boardwalk. In the heyday 60s, my generation witnessed the change. Marches and lives lost, or there in Vietnam. Goodbye to Martin, Bobby, and John. Race riots in school, long before BLM. Body bags for soldiers, just out of being children. Fathers and sons arguments. My beard, a symbol of a new consciousness, incurred Dad's wrath. Too many body bags, caskets draped with flags. Occupied the nightly news, sitting on my sporty javelin, looking so cool. My first beer and social integration, a divided nation, Nixon's resignation. I found a voice, teenage emancipation. Beatles on Ed Sullivan, Notorious Chicago 7. Who gets the last word in? Rinse and repeat. It's the same damn thing. No one's learned a lesson. Money thrown into renovation, now lined with hotels, geese chasing handouts of bread, bad for digestion. By the Bayfront Sheraton, now a haunt for fishermen and tourists seeking a boat ride on the Victorian Princess. A bit of history in a time capsule, now called Dobbins Landing, to highlight the convention center and market a revitalizing proud city Perry made a name for in the Battle of 1812. I got the wrong book. I write when I'm sitting down, and it's very rare, but I have some free time once in a while. This in here is about my trip. I just got back. And I bought this necklace off of this guy peddling something, and it had a price tag on it of $1,500. So I paid $40 for it. I gave it to my daughter. It had a pendant of the Mother Mary on it, and I was like, well, maybe it's really worth something. I burned it, I scratched it, I'd see if it was magnetic, so it might be real gold. But anyway, that's at the end of the story. Visiting my daughter and kids in Texas, unable to help with the stress of a marriage in default, a husband who never speaks, hugs fail to do enough. She's afraid to tell the children for fear some loss of love. I learned a brother in California had an appendectomy and caught an infection. Several days of hallucinations, administered experimental medications, hoping it wasn't meningitis. Bad practice should bring a suit, asking death or worse